Hi there, I'm Adam Robertson, the sports editor for The Saint, and I'm here today with Sophie Tyler, who is running to be AU president. How are you? You okay?
Yeah, all right, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Just a quick summary. You've outlined this in your manifesto, but could you just briefly tell us a little bit about the position and why you think you're a good fit for the position?
So the AU president is sort of the advocate for student sport for the university, and they sort of line manage the student sport team and sort of generally are the go-to person for any issues and any drama that comes up with the sport clubs. I think I'm a good fit for it because I have got a lot of experience doing the job. I've been on the student sport team for 2 years, and I've also been the president of the club for 2 years, so I've got my club's had to deal with a lot of kind of resource issues, which is a lot of what the AU president deals with. So I've kind of got that background to do the job.
Nice. So just on that note of kind of resource issues, a bit in your manifesto was about how you want to make sure that all clubs have a voice and everyone can put their issues forward. How do you plan to make that happen and make sure that everybody has a kind of equal say in how things are distributed, basically?
Yeah, so the idea of the sort of committee forums that I've got in my manifesto is to have like 5 clubs at a time, or representatives from 5 clubs at a time, just because I think especially for smaller clubs, they can often feel like, well, we've only got 20 members, how can we actually have our sort of position put forward? So the idea of those forums is to give that voice to smaller clubs, which I would then be able to take back to the Saint sport team like as a whole. I think the way resources are dealt with can be a lot more transparent. I think a lot of the time they're not actually as... people think there's a lot more kind of dirty things going on with it than there actually are, and I think we can make that process more transparent and also try and provide that support for smaller clubs in that way.
Okay, so just following on from that slightly, you used the word transparency in your manifesto, and I think a big bit about that was sort of identifying common problems within the AU. Are those problems that you feel that provide a solution to rather than something that just scrap it all together and come up with something new? Like, I think you kind of touched on one of the problems there, maybe just people think that it's a bit more dodgy than it actually is. So how do you kind of plan to sort of solve those problems, and is there any other ones you think are quite...
I think like a big one is about training times, and I think a lot of people kind of think, oh, well, the performance sports, for example, get the best training times, and I think the way they do it is very hard. There's like 53 sport clubs, but the way they do it is actually very fair, and I think they are planning to make that more transparent this year in itself. But I don't think it's a case of going right back to the start. I think it's about just making it people more aware of what's going on.
Okay, one of those, did you mention in your manifesto, I think it was sort of inter-club sessions?
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea, especially if you're trying to sort of work out training times for the smaller clubs as well, and obviously if there's less people, then it makes sense to kind of fill the gym at that time. But how do you think the clubs themselves will take to that? Is that something you expect to kind of maybe cause a problem?
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely something, I mean, my entire manifesto, the point I want to get across is that I want to listen to what clubs are wanting. So I'm hoping that I can sort of go to clubs and present them the idea, and if everyone comes back to me and says, I hate this, I don't want it, then of course I'm not going to do it. But I think there's a lot of, or from the position I'm in, it seems, a lot of clubs seem to be competing for training time, where actually, if we say your session's not going to be taken away from you if you've not got many people going to it, we'll just let the other half of the arena be used, and hopefully just build an environment where people feel okay to do that.
I was just going to move on sort of towards the end of the manifesto. You talked a little bit about mental health and well-being, and the AU and the university as a whole, I would say, do their best to kind of promote those issues. But is there anything specific that you are going to bring to that, or that are going to try and sort of continue on from what the AU already done? Yeah,
so I mean, over the past 2 years, we've obviously there's now student services are in the sports centre 1 day a week, which I think is a fantastic resource. I do think it should be publicised a bit more. On the student sport team this year, we've introduced a new wellbeing officer position, which I'm hoping, sort of because I've been a part of making that happen, I can then continue that next year and sort of make sure that it's working the way it's meant to, and that the training's provided that is going to be provided, and that's a good enough quality for those officers to be in a sort of good position within their clubs. I also think, so part of what I want to do is working with the union, because there's this big gap between the AU and the union. And I think actually working with members of like the SRC and the association to kind of bring more people into sport that have never set foot in the sports centre before. Because I think, you know, even when I was writing my manifesto and talking to my friends that aren't, don't have anything to do with the AU, you know, they're like, it's incredibly intimidating going to a sport club. And I think working with, members of the SRC and association can help that, bridge that gap, which is something we've been trying to do as well in the student sport team this year.
So I think generally it's quite a positive manifesto, and the bit that stuck out for me was at the end, which just seemed like a very positive, it's like a thing to end on. Just about sort of making sure that people are very aware of the success of sports clubs and the sort of hard work that goes into it on a day-to-day basis. Can you just tell us a little bit more about your plan for that?
Yes, there's sort of two sides of it. So if anyone doesn't know, the Saint Sport is under the two sort of organisations, Department of Sport and Exercise and the AU. And it's the idea generally is to bring those two together a little bit more. So for sport clubs, I want to kind of set up like a social media and a bit of an email blast, which would go out both to like students but also to the staff, which kind of just each club can have the opportunity to say like one sentence or two about something that's been going on that isn't necessarily competition related, which I think again is quite important for the smaller clubs or for like non-competitive sports. Otherwise, they're not often kind of publicised that much. And I think trying to put across things which aren't about competition. So if it's like you've rewritten your whole constitution, that's going to be a great way to like help run your club, just to show to sort of the Department of Sport and Exercise the amazing things that clubs are doing. And then for the Department of Sport and Exercise and sort of Saint Sport staff generally, I want to create this sort of pack which has like all the policies and procedures and stuff, which will help with transparency, but specifically have little like short bios on all the staff and like kind of what they do, but also just like, I don't know, a fun fact or just something about them which brings it more like a personal side to it. Because there's a lot of staff and they're amazing and do all this good work. And I think often they might not feel that the clubs know about it, or that you know, the clubs just think they're out to get them and working against them, which they're totally not. And I'm hoping that will just bring that gap a bit closer.
Nice. Well, like I said, it seems like a very positive manifesto of all this. So thank you very much for speaking to us.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you.